Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Innate webinar for today. I am very pleased to have Paul Reeves with me, and for a very special Innate webinar edition. Welcome, Paul. How are you keeping today?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday.
I guess with our unique situation of being stuck at home, as many of our audience are too, we're trying a different format today with an interview situation, and hopefully the technology holds up. A little bit of housekeeping for the intro. So we've turned off the chat box, so you won't be able to comment alongside, but you will be able to send Q&A or any questions through for us to answer today. I'll try to answer them throughout the webinar, and we're going to try to keep it as informal as possible. And also, you will get a copy of Paul's slides and a link to the recording in a follow-up email. So be sure to look out for that. So we're going to hear a bit more about Paul's extraordinary effort, where during the first 21 days of lockdown here in South Africa, he cycled on his stationary bike at home, the equivalent of a Cape Town cycle tour, or roughly 109 kilometers every day for 21 days. Now, to help the listeners visualize that for a minute, the cycle tour sponsored by Pick and Pay each year is one of the longest running and largest public cycling events in the world. And the route they usually take goes out along the M3 from Cape Town city centre, along False Bay via Fishhook, Simonstown, around back through Noordhoek, before winding their way back into Greenpoint via Camps Bay. Now, a drive which usually would take me in a vehicle with screaming children about 2 hours. You rode that on a bicycle every day for 21 days. And so, Paul, you and I have known each other for a lot longer than either of us would care to admit, lest we give away our ages. But suffice to say, I know you, but some of our audience don't. So please, if you don't mind, would you take off the virtual helmet and sweaty lycra and share with us a bit about your background and take us through the story you have for us today.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Mike, and thanks for that introduction. When you explain the distance of the cycle route, it doesn't sound like anything anyone should do, but lest be said, I did end up doing it. I'm just going to share my screen, if that's all right with everyone, and that's where we'll just start on the presentation. Mike, you there? Everyone's good? Happy?
Yeah,
okay, fantastic. All right, Mike, thank you very much for the introduction, and again, morning to everyone. Happy Friday. I know we're going into a bit of a long weekend, but I don't think we kind of know what weekends are at the moment. Every day seems to kind of blend into each other. Thank you very much for this opportunity and this amazing platform. One thing I did say to Mike this morning when we were doing our preparations, it was actually a great opportunity for me to do a little bit of reflection during the 21 Augusts and 21 days. Sorry, I still call it the August, as that's what it was always known as. It allowed me a time just to do a little bit of reflection and put this stuff down on paper. I think it's important that sometimes we do that, going through some tough times or good times, just to reflect, put stuff down on paper, make some notes, just with myself and kind of who I am. If I can try to get this slide deck to work. See, Mike, this is modern technology for you, huh? Mike, you're on mute.
Yeah, so Simon just says you can just click on the screen and it should proceed to the next slide.
Ah, there we go. See, Simon, we need all Simon. All right, so who am I? Well, first of all, you'll probably see a slightly different hairstyle. The last day of the ride, I actually did for cancer awareness, so shaved my head. Not that I had necessarily a huge bouffant hairstyle previously. Myself, Paul Reeves, we joke that I was born in the States, the Free State. I was born in Sasolburg. Quite a humble upbringing, very, very close family. Parents have recently been married for 50 years. I've got an older brother and an older sister, so I'm the baby. Typical South African family, outdoor lifestyle. Sports was a huge part of our makeup. Sports mad from a very early age. This included watching as well as competing. Grew up in an era where rugby was an amateur sport, so I never really thought it was going to be something that could become a career. I went to Stellenbosch University in 1996, giving away my age. While at university, I was offered a rugby contract, a 3-month rugby contract, and came back 12 years later. I think they call it overstaying your welcome. Got back in the April. It was actually yesterday, 9 years yesterday. And from a career perspective, I've kind of always been in the health and wellness industry. That's what I've always been a passion of mine. Okay. Going into an understanding now, and probably the main reason why we've come through today is actually get an understanding of why would I take on this challenge. When I first heard about the lockdown and also the period leading up to lockdown, I got quite disappointed, to be honest, and a little bit saddened on how the majority of the people were reacting. It almost seemed to bring out the worst in people, and I apologize if I'm generalizing, but I felt that the majority of people were quite concerned about how this was going to affect them, and only saw kind of themselves, and very little thought seemed to be given towards those who were less fortunate. The situation that we're going through now is absolutely unique. It's unique to all of us. And when I say all of us, I mean absolutely all of us globally. The situation we're dealing with is so incredibly unique because this virus does not discriminate on race, color, creed, nationality, age, religion, wealth, status, ego, personality, physique, intelligence. Yet at this time, people seem to become more and more self-aware and intrinsically focused. For me, this was an incredible opportunity for all of us just to slow down, take stock, focus on what is really important in our lives. And without becoming a little bit too romantic, but to quote a line from Love Actually, when the planes hit the Twin Towers, none of the phone calls from people on board were messages of hate or revenge. They were all messages of love. This was an amazing opportunity for all of us to realize that the only thing that truly matters in our lives was others and our health. Okay, this is an interesting slide with regards to the planning. If I can go back just a little bit, I moved to Johannesburg for work and did the 94.7 cycle challenge. This was the 16th of November, 2014. On Wednesday, the 4th of March, 2020, which is best part of 6 years later, I took my bike out of storage as I'm now living back in Cape Town. I took the bike out on the Wednesday as I needed to clean it, services, and get ready because I was doing the Cape Town cycle tour on the Sunday. I'd not cycled in almost 6 years. I put the bike on my indoor trainer. I did an hour, thought, well, everything seems to be working. I seem to remember how to do this, and cycled the 109 kilometers on the Sunday. It wasn't my first, it was my 8th, but I hadn't actually been on the bike for about 6 years. So on Monday the 23rd, we were told, obviously, President told us that lockdown would be happening, and basically the first day would be Friday the 27th of March. Wanting to see my parents, who now live in Langebaan, I decided to take the 2-hour drive up to Langebaan to go and see them before lockdown. In that time, the 2-hour journey, I actually came up with the idea. I contacted the Children's Hospital Trust. They mailed me the documents. I got my parents to print the documents out for me. By the time I arrived in Langebaan, they were waiting for me. I signed the documents, sent them back to me. And within 12 hours of coming up with the idea, I had my letter of authorization, which was on the 25th of March. This did mean that I literally had one day to get absolutely everything that I needed to be able to cycle not only the Cape Town cycle tour, but to do it 21 times in 21 days. From a mindset perspective, I'm going to spend a little bit of time on mindset because I think that's where we're sitting at the moment. And if anything, it's where we'd like to go and get an understanding from this morning's webinar. Everything, and I mean everything, is based around our mindset. I take the 4-minute mile, which was in 1954. John Landy had an interview. He's the American competitor. John Landy said in an interview that the 4-minute mile was humanly impossible. On the 6th of May, 1954, Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute barrier. 6 weeks later, John Landy broke Bannister's record by 2 seconds. This is all about mindset. From a preparation perspective, was I prepared? Absolutely not. I'd not ridden a bike in 6 years. However, I had a lifetime of experience, an understanding of what it would take, a trust that I would get fitter during the challenge, that my body would adapt, that I understood enough about my body from a sports science background to be able to approach the challenge with enough confidence. From a commitment perspective, I did this challenge to benefit the children of the Red Cross Children's Hospital and those incredible people and the nurses and doctors who work there. However, the commitment for this challenge came from me and my understandings that I will be embarking on a journey of a lifetime, a journey that will take me to places that I've never been before, even though I would not be moving an inch. A journey that would take me to completely and absolutely out of my comfort zone, physically and mentally. Personally, I feel that we as human beings seem to understand the physical challenge as we have a way of quantifying this. A marathon is a specific distance. A mountain is a specific height. A barbell is a specific weight. Mental fortitude and moving out of your mental comfort zone is something that very few of us are willing to do. And I think the reason why is that none of us can tell us how that's going to feel individually. I can train you to be physically fit and fit enough to be able to run 42.2 kilometers. I can explain the physiological changes that will happen to your body to get you into peak condition to run that marathon. But if your mind isn't in it, it'll never happen. From a challenges perspective, I think this is exactly where we're all standing at the moment. There was a challenge that was kind of thrown to us, best part of, well, we're going into the 5th week now. So we've gone 4 weeks in. There was a challenge that was thrown to all of us and none of us could plan for it. We need to be able to adapt. None of us knew how to adapt and manage the lockdown situation. So challenges are thrown at us on a daily basis, and we need to be prepared for it. We need to have the confidence to be able to handle these adjustments and routines and planning. Personally, I took the opportunity to do this to myself. My usual time for the 109 kilometers was about 4.5 hours. However, I was getting fitter and I'd managed to get my time down or do a best time of about 4 hours and 17 minutes. A generic mailer was sent around on Facebook talking about mental health in men. The idea was you should add a photo of yourself and nominate a friend to do the same, chainmail style, raising awareness of the mental health in men. Instead of posting a photo, I decided to try and go under 4 hours in a show of mental strength. This would mean having to take more than 17 minutes off my fastest and best time to date. I managed a time of 3 hours and 57 minutes, which is 20 minutes faster than my previous fastest time. I had to dig really incredibly deep, and it hurt. It hurt like hell. But I achieved what I had planned for the day and showed that we are always mentally stronger than we think. In my video for the day, I said, I will not be doing that again. It was just too tough. It was too mentally demanding, physically demanding, but mentally demanding. The next challenge that I threw myself, now, I had 15 Augusts back to back. As much as you could say that you were getting into a bit of a routine and a comfort zone within that, I was getting into a bit of a comfort zone and into a bit of a routine. So while cycling on Good Friday, I was thinking about Easter Sunday. And Easter Sunday in South Africa is such an important religious holiday. I decided not to cycle on the Sunday. However, the challenge that I'd set was 21 Augusts in 21 days. I woke up at 5 a.m. on Saturday morning, having already done 15 Augusts back to back. I got on the bike at about 6:30 and got off the bike 8 hours and 47 minutes later. The reason for that is that I decided to do a double Cape Town cycle tour. So that's 218 kilometers, 8 hours and 47 minutes later. And this was in respect for the religious holiday. There was definitely the respect towards the religious holiday, but the idea is that move yourself out of your comfort zone. The idea of cycling 1 August is daunting for the majority of us, cycling 15 back to back, but then throwing it on a double. And it was something that I had to do. It was without a shadow of a doubt, from a mental perspective, the toughest thing I've ever done. I was very fortunate to do the Ironman in the UK in 2010, but without a shadow of a doubt, this was the most difficult mental challenge that I'd ever set myself. It may be a little bit easier that I knew the following day I was going to have the day off, and I hadn't had the day off in 16 days. From a challenge perspective, another challenge then got thrown down to me inadvertently. When I did the sub 4 hour, a friend of mine said that he looked forward to me cycling or seeing me cycle it in 3 hours and 45 minutes. It wasn't a challenge. It was more of a dig. It was more of a poke in the ribs, throw down the next gauntlet. Hating that he had thrown this into my mind, even though I knew he was joking about this time, as a sub 4 hour was incredibly arduous. I'd set my sights on attempting to knock 13 minutes off my previous fastest time, which I felt had possibly almost killed me. On the second last day, I attempted the challenge and did it in a time of 3 hours and 41 minutes. This was 16 minutes faster than my previous fastest time and 4 minutes faster than the challenge that he had laid down. Now, I'm by no means saying that I'm some superhuman athlete. I think we understand from the discussion we've had so far, I wasn't prepped, I wasn't planned, I knew I'd get fitter. The main reason for doing this is to show that we are stronger than we think. Mentally, we are a lot stronger than we think, and we can dig deeper if we need to. If we take the opportunity that we've got at the moment, we all categorically knew that lockdown was going to be 21 days. It was the reason for me doing 21, because that was the length of lockdown. That was 21 days. We're now sitting in 35 days worth of lockdown. We need to learn how to adapt, and we are mentally stronger. We can handle it. From a change of approach to health and wellness, a few days before lockdown, I was inundated with people asking me for advice on gym equipment. I'd set up a makeshift gym in my house, taken a photo and placed it on Facebook. The majority of these people had probably never seen the inside of a gym in years. However, their default setting was, what kind of exercise can I do? People started to think of exercise as a manner of filling time and preventing boredom. Surely their focus was not on keeping healthy, as they weren't healthy and haven't followed any exercise regime prior to lockdown. However, it started to really excite me that people seemed to understand the benefits and the necessity to exercise. How my sports science background seemed to be a qualification that was now revered and not seemed as a sideline hobby while real people went to work. An example of this, I used to run an executive wellness facility doing high-end annual executive medicals for some of the top execs in the country. The most difficult part of that job was getting them to attend. They were too busy, and their jobs were too important to come and have a 6-hour extensive medical once a year. A medical that would catch any possible illnesses early. I personally would sit with every executive and I would have the same conversation with everyone. I would say to them, you earn a huge amount of money. You have more money, you have enough money to be able to buy all the medication that you might need to manage your illness or your disease. However, you can never, ever buy back your health.
Paul, I'm just going to ask you a quick question there, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So, a trend that I've picked up on chatting to financial advisors, and there are many of them on the call today, is clients reaching out because once you've stripped away a lot of the noise in our lives, which has been done for us or done unto us because of the lockdown. You're not having to get into traffic every day. You're focusing on your work. You're still trying to juggle a lot of things at home, and maybe there's this kind of existential threat of a virus that you don't want to catch. You don't want to get sick, but people start thinking about their health, like you've just mentioned, but also, is my will in place? What's going to happen to me to my family once I pass away? So
Yep.
all these questions which we tend to gloss over because either they're difficult topics or we don't have the right mindset and the right priorities. And they come to the fore now. And it's been fascinating that, people have reached out to you and said, please help me with my health, because suddenly that's a priority for them.
It's like I said, I did possibly the slightly posher version of the sports science degree, which actually was sports science. But they used to joke, there used to be a BA, human movements studies, and everyone used to joke about it being the BA push-ups. It was kind of like you didn't quite know what you wanted to do at university, so you would go to it. The reason why I decided to do the course and study sports science was exactly for that reason. For me, it's a default setting. It should be, and this lockdown period has opened up a lot of people's eyes. I think it's a great opportunity for all of us to just take that time, just to slow down, have a look at our lives, give us an opportunity to find what's really important. And it's absolutely spectacular to see how many people have got involved in exercise. Then a number of arguments that I hear with people living in smaller states saying how we should be able to go out and run. Now, these people have never run in their lives before, but suddenly now exercise is incredibly important. The health and wellness side of it is something that it detracts from us. It's preventative medicine, for example, is possibly one of the most difficult things in the world to sell. Take this pill and you won't get a headache. Well, I don't have a headache, so why should I take the pill? It's the same thing when we come to exercise, trying to get these people to buy into it. I've had the same issue with my parents who, relatively young parents with 3 kids, trying to fit in their daily routines. We always used to joke that we used to have to wake my mom up on the couch to tell her to go to bed. And exercise, trying to explain to my mother that exercise or doing exercise would give you more energy to be able to handle life better. I've loved the fact that people have started to understand the success or the realization of looking after yourself. It doesn't have to only be an exercise. It's something, take a little bit of time for yourself and not. I think we are getting to the stage where this burnout was happening. All of us were really excited for 2020 and the start of 2020. But 2020 hit hard. I don't know how the rest of you felt, but not talking about the virus, but January and February hit hard. I think we almost got to a burnout stage towards the end of February. And I'm not saying this is easy. I'm not saying this is an easy time at all. And it's not like we're feet up and we're drinking margaritas on the beach. but it's a great opportunity for us to start focusing on what's important and spending time with family. Even though we're not necessarily seeing friends, I think platforms like this, where you got your Zooms and your online platforms, it's a great opportunity just to find out what's important in our lives again. From a publicity perspective, so not having much time to plan. As you said, we basically had one day of planning to go into this. It's the idea of me being physically not up to scratch wasn't as much of a concern, but we had set a target of 50,000 Rand. This is for the Red Cross Children's Hospital. The trust is called the Children's Hospital Trust. Now, it wasn't a plan. It wasn't people kind of preparing and knowing that this was going to happen. So from a social media perspective, I started to use things like Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. These were obviously vital for me and how it worked. We had some incredible successes with regards to the publicity that we got. On the top left, that was the Sunday Times. Any of you who do know the Ironman, there's the MC who travels the world, a guy called Paul Kay. He jumped on board. We got Die Burgerd, Weekend August, the Cape Town Cycle Tour on Instagram. On the bottom right, Daryl Impey, who's, I think we all know, one of the top cyclists in the world, obviously a South African, a Tour de France cyclist, a Tour de France stage winner. We managed to get on to Carl Wasty's show on KFM. My brother-in-law is the morning host on Kaira FM, so we managed to get on there. And Reeves and Moloto on Cape Talk, the morning show. So the publicity was spectacular, and it just, to be seen as kind of a feel-good story during a tough time was an amazing opportunity for me, and it was good for me to travel that journey. But if we go back to the actual charity itself, yes, I was doing it for the feel-good feeling, but the main reason was obviously trying to raise money for the children's charity. Nothing came in from this publicity. Absolutely nothing. As in, we've had just over 200 individual people donate onto my site. I know every one of those people. And when you look at this, you think, well, if you're going to get onto KFM, Kaira FM, get into newspapers, national newspapers, where the call to action is loud and clear, you would think, well, you're going to hit your target quite easily. It didn't. Now, I'm not dismissing it. I think it's incredible that we managed to get into newspapers and get onto the radio. I think raising the publicity for the hospital itself was absolutely spectacular. But we need to kind of almost compartmentalize this and say, well, that was only one part of it. The second part of it was the fundraising charity. Now, the social media, without a doubt, worked best. My personal belief is people buy people. People want to be a part of the journey. People need to feel that they have a vested interest. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and WhatsApp were amazing platforms where I could talk directly to people. Every single person who donated, as I said, about 200 individuals, I knew all of them. Radio and newspaper were fabulous platforms to raise the profile of the trust and the hospital, but did nothing for the charity. Both were vitally important. People buy people, and that's something that I think we all forget. This is an opportunity where we shut up shop and look after ourselves, where this is an opportunity where we need to be able to spread the word, get on the phone, call people. People want to understand and be able to talk. The people who were following me, now what I did on my Facebook and Instagram was videos on a regular basis. People felt that they were almost in that lounge with me on the bike. They understood, they knew. I would do the video immediately after the bike ride. So the first time I did sub 4 hour, I could hardly breathe and I was covered in sweat. People kind of got a better understanding. They got to almost live and breathe and feel what I was feeling. Emails don't do that. Okay, and a newspaper article doesn't do that. It's appreciated, and people for 2 minutes will say, wow, but even though there was a large call to action, it didn't actually spur anyone on to donate. And I can understand why not, because you read these articles, but it doesn't really pertain to you. It has no real effect on you. People buy people. I think that's possibly one of the most important things.
It might be that whole adage that 50% of marketing spend is worthwhile. We just don't know which 50%.
I agree, absolutely. Yeah.
So it speaks to me about the power of your network, and at the moment the technology we have available for us to kind of lean on that network and help ourselves and help us help others. Certainly, if I think about myself, I gave some money towards your campaign, but the fact that you were on radio, like, really raised your profile for me. Like, wow, look how much airtime this guy's getting. And so it kind of filters up to the priorities of what you're paying attention to. So I think the two really go hand in hand. And I think the ability for an individual to leverage all the different, like Instagram you mentioned, LinkedIn, Facebook, etc. It was really, and I mean, you posted a lot of video as well. I think that's
correct. Yeah,
people are quite scared of video when they're promoting themselves. And personally, like, I hate being on video, but to take that leap, and video is so much more engaging on a social media channel.
Yeah, Mike, I completely agree, and I've never been too concerned about the video side of things, even though I've got a ridiculous hairstyle at the moment. I think the big thing for me is that look, I've been in sales, and I've pretty much been in sales all my life. With this, it was a slightly different sales technique, because I wasn't pushing myself. I was pushing hard for a charity. I was pushing hard for the benefits. So when it came to, I came up with an idea from a sales perspective, which was basically a 30 Rand challenge. And what that was, no one was buying coffee. Generally, coffee is about 30 Rand. No one's buying cigarettes. That's about 30 Rand. No one's really buying fuel, and 2 liters of fuel is about 30 Rand. So I was trying to get people to understand that every little helps, and every small little bit helps. But the video side of things, I think it did seem to make a big difference, because people suddenly got an understanding who I am. They saw that I was getting tired. They could see how tired my eyes were. They could see how drained my face was after doing the ride. Suddenly it became a little bit more understanding, because if you just put on that you did a 3-hour 41 Argus, people start to think, well, this guy's superhuman. He's not, I can't relate to this individual. And I know I followed people like Daryl Impey, and I watched him ride, and he actually sent me one of his training rides. He actually probably had only got to 109 kilometers of his final ride, and he'd done it in 2 hours and 57 minutes. I mean, that for me is completely, it just doesn't seem to make any sense. However, we don't know what dark places he went through to be able to do that. Just recently, it was a couple of nights ago, I watched the sub 2-hour marathon. And one of the things the commentators were saying we need to look at is, while he was running, on the odd occasion, he was smiling. Now, the reason why he was smiling was he was going through a really, really dark patch. He was really struggling. But from the outside, we don't see that. We don't know that that smile means he's going through a dark patch, because he explained that's what it was. We see these guys run a sub 2-hour marathon, and you think, well, that's just ridiculous. I mean, the idea of even running a marathon doesn't make any sense to me. So I think what I'm trying to get across from a publicity perspective, and what you said with regards to marketing, get out, do as much as you can. People will buy into you, but you need to put some kind of personal touch to it. People buy people. Make sure you keep pushing yourself, and unapologetically so. You are who you are, and unless you get told to stop bothering me, give those calls. It's something that people are actually really wanting, and don't be scared, don't be embarrassed. It's something that you need to be able to do, especially from a business perspective. People want that contact and want to know that you haven't just forgotten about them. All right. Okay. The actual charity itself. On the 25th of March, I signed the papers to undertake a challenge that I thought up myself. This was a deliberate decision, and I was willing to take my body and my mind on a journey. In doing so, I also raised some money for the incredible charity that was quite close to my heart. I had absolutely no idea what the challenge was going to reveal to me, how my body would react, how tough it was going to be. Just to explain that, with regards to how tough it was going to be, on the very first day, I finished at about 5:30, possibly 6 o'clock in the evening. I went straight upstairs, had a shower, lay on the bed, and I woke up the following morning. And that was day one. I still had 20 days to go. Another day, my thighs got incredibly sore. So I'd actually gone up into my makeshift gym, which is just one of the bedrooms that's not being used. Lay down on the carpet and was using the foam roller on my legs. I've got a 4-year-old staffy called Max, and he came upstairs and he lay next to me, and 2 hours later I woke up. So it was incredibly physically demanding. So I didn't know how strong my mind was going to be. 4 weeks ago to the day, as you talk about now, I started the challenge. Since then, I put the slide together actually not that long ago. We're actually now, from a total money raised, we're sitting just over 125,000. Now, the first target that we set was 50,000. I work quite closely with a fabulous lady from a charity called Pauline Solomons, and we discussed the charity and the money that we could possibly raise, and we came to a decision of 50,000, which did seem almost unattainable. It's obviously such an incredibly huge amount of money. Any other time, possibly 50,000 we thought would be attainable, but such an incredibly difficult financial time for everyone at the moment. And even though people might have wanted to, they weren't really in a position to be able to donate. After 10 days of cycling, we actually hit the 50,000 Rand marker. So we had another discussion, and we thought, well, just to keep people's momentum and the momentum going, we raised that to 100,000. On the day that I finished, we actually hit the 125,000 Rand marker. So it's 125% of our second target. Just to give you an understanding of the complexity or the challenge that lay ahead, I live in the southern suburbs. I live in Bergfleet. If I cycled from my house in Bergfleet and cycled 2,289 kilometers over those 21 days, I would have ended up in Bulawayo in Zimbabwe. From a calories deficit, basically 51,500 calories, which is equates to 225 bar ones. And I know there was a lot of people, when I did present this slide or have let people see the slide, a lot of people were quite concerned, because I think a lot of them thought over Easter they had easily consumed that amount of calories. From a time perspective, 92 hours, just over 92 hours, which means non-stop for 4 full days. And a nice little extra stat, average cadence, number of times you basically spun your legs over, just over 400,000 times. So that was the challenge that I did and was lying ahead of me. This was one of the most enjoyable slides that I'd put together. And again, I don't think I would have done this if I wasn't asked by Mike to do this webinar. It was a great opportunity to sit down, take some quiet time and reflect. The first is you don't always need to be absolutely 100% prepared to start. The key to success is start. I think we're all in a position when it comes, I've been in sales most of my life, and a lot of my team, they don't have the brochures, that's why they're not selling. They don't have the documentation, they don't have the selling. They don't have the images, that's why they're not selling. That's just from a sales perspective. Guys, the biggest opportunity, I remember, and my sister will hate saying this, she was actually one of the executives that we used to struggle to get in to do her executive medical. And one of the things that she would say was she wants to get herself fitter before she goes to her medical. That's the mindset that we're currently sitting in. We kind of think, well, I don't want to go for a run because I'm not in shape. You're misunderstanding the point. The reason why you go for a run is to get yourself in shape. So if you want to start something, start immediately. Don't delay. The second on this is that once you've started, you do have the ability to learn along the way and to become better. So when I started cycling, I actually became a better cyclist within these 21 days. I actually became more efficient. Not efficient physiologically, which I did, but I felt my technique became better. So I started to understand what is necessary to actually cycle more efficiently. From a physiological perspective, those who are interested to the sports side of things, the first time I did it in 4 hours and about 45 minutes with an average heart rate of about 135 beats a minute. So obviously your heart beating 135 beats a minute for 4.5 hours. About a week later, I did the Argus distance, 109 kilometers, in 4 hours and 17 minutes with an average heart rate of 111. So not only had I gone 30 minutes faster, but my average heart rate had dropped by 20 beats a minute. That's within a week. I'm in the industry and I didn't realize that you could become so much fitter in such a short period of time. So my key to success here is pay attention. And I don't mean that to sound patronizing, but there is so much noise that goes on. And if you are willing to learn and you're on a journey, pay attention to what's around you. Pay attention to the people who are around you. Pay attention to your body. Pay attention to absolutely everything. The problem that I find is that a lot of us think we're going on a journey, but we go on by ourselves. And we do seem to fail because we're not paying enough attention to be able to learn. And we learn through everyone else's possible advice, whether we take it or not, but paying attention and not just becoming absolutely shut all the doors. I'm on my own path. Don't get in my way. The distraction is not the noise. You need to pay attention to the important stuff, and that'll help you along your way. Sorry. On the third one, you will encounter low times. I can guarantee this. No matter how prepared you are, no matter how much you've done, you are going to go through some tough times. The key to success here is adapt. You need to learn to be able to adapt in any environment. Lockdown, and one of the main reasons why we're doing this webinar is due to the lockdown, to be able to adapt, to be able to move with the punches, roll with the punches, I should say. One of the ways that I've managed to adapt, a lot of you think I might be crazy, but that's exactly the reason why I did what I did, throwing in a double August, throwing in a couple of sub 4 hour Augusts. You need to learn to adapt. You need to get an understanding. If you're paying attention, you can adapt earlier. If you're not paying attention, you feel you're forced to adapt. So paying attention, get started, get going, but pay attention along the way. And as you're starting to move, you feel that you can adapt easier. Focus at the job in hand and be meticulous in your focus. Don't get distracted. Okay, the key to success here is control the controllables. Now, until until the beginning or the end of February, we absolutely knew everything was fine. And then we get told that there's lockdown. And then we are absolutely categorically understand that lockdown is 21 days. Now we're sitting in 35 days. And we knew all the rules until last night, where our fabulous president gives us more understanding of what's going to happen. We can't control any of that. We can control ourselves. We can learn to adapt. We can learn to pay attention. But only thing we can do is control the controllables. On the last slide, by paying attention, by adapting, and by remaining focused, is much easier if we direct our energy to what we love and what we believe in. So for me here, the key to success here is find your passion. Find what you're passionate about. It's much easier to stay on a path if you're passionate about what you want to do. It's easier to adapt. It's easier to pay attention if you know exactly what your focus is. My second last slide is a quote that I'd used in 2010. I was playing rugby up to the professional rugby in the UK to the end of 2009. I took a sabbatical as I wanted to do a bit of a bucket list, which was the Ironman. Living in the UK, I decided to do the UK Ironman. And this was a personal mantra that I felt was necessary for me. It was something that I printed off above my work desk. I had it at home in my kitchen. And if anything, it's been a mantra that stuck with me for many years, obviously best part of 10 years since I've done it. It starts with what we have is based on moment-to-moment choices of what we do. In each of these moments, we choose. We either take a risk and move towards what we want, or we play it safe and choose comfort. Most of the people, most of the time, choose comfort. In the end, people either have excuses or experiences, reasons or results. They either have what they wanted, or they have a detailed list of the rational reasons why not. Now, just for me to explain that, I think what we're saying, and one thing I really like about this is the last sentence with regards to rational reasons. I love the fact that they said rational reasons and not just reasons. All these reasons are rational. You go for a run, but it's just started to rain. My Bluetooth headphones are not charged. These are all rational reasons why you can't go and run. But it's not going to get you to what you really want to do. From a mindset perspective, I think I'm possibly slightly different. There have been occasions where I've forced myself to do more than what I should have. Ironman training, Wednesday night was my swimming session, driving home because the pool was right by my house. The weather was sleet, hail, sideways rain, and I was driving in my car and I was thinking to myself, I'm actually lucky because this evening I get to swim indoors in a nice heated pool. I've got best part of 2 hours worth of training, but it's fabulous. Like this weather is horrendous and I'm going to be indoors. I came home, I went upstairs, and for some reason I put my running gear on, I went for a run. That's the kind of the mindset that you need to do it. Either you're going to have, the day of the race, you never knew what was going to happen. So you're going to put yourself in these bizarre positions. But you either get what you want or you have rational reasons why you haven't. Okay. And that's me done, guys. That's me. Thank you very much for your time. Mike, I think you wanted to just service any questions if we have.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. I think that's a fantastic time management from you. That's 47 minutes in. Well done. I really liked the bit about the difference between your area of concern, in other words, what you can't control, and your area of influence, which, the controllables. Yeah. Being able to get out of bed and your mindset and your bike is what you can control. The news flows you can't, and that really rang true for me.
I think it's especially this time. Obviously, it's we don't always want to talk about the virus at the moment, but it's what we're all talking about. It's difficult not to keep the news on. It's difficult not to listen to what's going on. It's difficult not to have an opinion, whether it's correct or factual. We are in a position now to exactly what you say, to control the controllables, create a bit of a routine. And I know there's a lot of people who have really been struggling with regards to just the daily routines, having kids at home, having to homeschool and trying to do the work. Other people who are possibly single, getting out of bed. Now, why would you have to get out of bed? You know, I can do everything in my pajamas. It's trying to create that routine, getting up, getting fresh, getting on, putting on a nice shirt, which Mike and we haven't done in a while. It gives us an opportunity to be able to focus on ourselves, which there's so much noise previously or prior to this. We haven't really been able to do this. And I do think sometimes when people start to focus on themselves, they get a bit scared. They get a bit nervous. They start to realize that I've let myself go a bit. And this is a great opportunity to be able to do that.
Absolutely. And it's equally applicable to personal health as it is to personal finance. So, so the lessons that you've taken us through today, I think that they play out in every context, as an entrepreneur, as an investor, as an employee, as a member of my community. So, so thank you so much for your time, Paul. So there were a couple of questions, but we've kind of answered them. So one or two about social media, and two about some of the rituals you had in place. So I'm not going to go back over that. I think you covered it really well in your talk. And so, yeah, so if there's no additional questions, I'm just going to sum up and say that thank you for your huge effort, Paul. I'm sure the Red Cross also thank you very much. And from the man who cycled 21 cycle tours in 21 days, Paul Reeves, amateur cyclist. I don't know if you still qualify as an amateur anymore, but very accomplished human being. So life lessons and thinking differently in a time of disorder. Thank you for joining us, and best of luck with your next challenge.
Fantastic, thank you. Yeah, this amazing platform, absolutely fantastic. The next challenge actually has been decided upon. It's not nearly as daunting. There's a Challenge Romania, I think they're calling it. It's a 10K run at 1 p.m. GMT time. Basically, they're trying to get everyone in the world or globally to run 10 kilometers. It's in awareness for autism. My nephew's autistic, so we're doing it in honor of him. I've just got to see if my estate will allow me to run on the roads. If not, I've got a 5-meter garden, which I'm going to have to do quite a few laps of.
Fantastic, Paul. Good luck with that, and hopefully we'll chat again soon.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, and have a lovely weekend, everyone. Take care.